Great. I'm not seeing anything yet. Oh, no, wait a minute. I think I just went live on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
You confirm?
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. In three, two, and one. What is up, everybody? Thank you for joining us here on the Welcome Home Podcast. I'm your host, Famously Garnet, and joined by co-host Q.
What it do, y'all? What it do?
And in today's episode, we took a week off, and it wasn't by design. It's just the way things happened. Q and I, we had every plan to get on this thing and talk ball before the LSU game after the bye week, and unfortunately, just weren't able to make things happen because life happens, right? Life happens for better or worse. Things happen, and but we're here now with you to do an unfortunate recap of a 2010 loss to LSU down there in Death Valley in Baton Rouge, a game that I was originally going to, but again, life happens, and I wasn't able to make that part of the plan, so that's okay. South Carolina got some unfortunate news on the basketball front from the women's side of things with Chloe Kitts, as Chloe Kitts has personally announced that she is out for the season with a torn ACL. So that is a pretty significant hit for women's basketball in South Carolina and Dawn Staley. So we'll talk about the things went into that, and then of course the headliner leading into Sunday afternoon, Lonnie Teasley relieved his duties at South Carolina, no longer being the offensive line coach with the Gamecocks. So uh, you know, some thoughts there we'll bring into that also. Q, let's start it right off the bat. Right off the bat in Baton Rouge, as South Carolina goes off the bye week. You felt good, honestly, after the Kentucky game. After the Kentucky game, you felt good where this offense could be heading. This defense looked really good, really, really good against Kentucky after a very abysmal, abysmal playing against Vanderbilt and Missouri, especially Missouri, really because of what happened in that game. South Carolina bounces back well against Kentucky. Going into a bye week, you're feeling good. There's still some question marks as far as who's going to be healthy on that offensive line. Casey Henry and Nolan Hay being those two. Marquis Anderson also officially ruled out. Marquis may return this season, may not. You don't know. Seems a little bit better with Casey Henry and Nolan Hay, though. South Carolina rolls into Death Valley. I believe it was a double-digit underdog at that point. But you felt good. You felt good. Felt like, hey, South Carolina, this may be that game that Shane Beamer takes care of business or it's close, and they ultimately either they pull it out or they just fall short. But it's because of things that just happened late in the game. Well, at Q, in this game, right off the rip, South Carolina does a great job on defense, right? Great job on defense. The next drive, disaster happens. A bad snap, was it? Lenore Sellers, did he handle it correctly? There's a couple things there. I've seen two sides argue it, both that play on the offensive line that are former Gamecocks. Not a great start, but the defense once again holds them to three. Holds them to 3 points. It's a strong showing by the defense in this game, Q. Can't say enough about him. Clayton White has surpassed a lot of things so far this season, despite that one game against Missouri. And that's a huge asterisk right there when you look at Vanderbilt and what happened losing Lenore's early in that game. I think we can all agree on that. But then it turns all the attention to the offense. South Carolina had the ball, Q, got over the LSU 50, 7 times in this game? And out of the 7, scored twice. This defense gave you an opportunity, Q. The defense gave you an opportunity to put this thing together. And some late touchdown. The score was 20-10. LSU has a freak athlete that they took care of business. They know how to use properly. And he manhandled the South Carolina secondary, as one would think, if you could use this kid properly.
Um, I'm gonna be real. A lot of mistakes were made in the game, and I'm strictly just talking offense. Like I'm nothing dealing with the defense. The only real issue I had with the defense was you didn't really adjust to the 6'7" guy who clearly was a basketball player before. The way he adjusts and uses his body, that's pretty spectacular. I would have probably put more of a safety over there because I feel like they weren't doing anything else with it. And so they kind of were pretty predictable when it came to him.
Right.
Especially if you're going to use the blitz, I would have accounted. I wouldn't have left Judge over there by himself.
Right.
With the situation with, I think, one touchdown. The other touchdown kind of just happened, but especially the first touchdown. But I say all that to say this. If your head coach goes into a press conference and says, "Hey, I had to go into halftime and ask why Matthew Fuller wasn't out there," I think we have bigger issues than Lonnie Teasley was. I think there need to be different kind of conversations being had. Because I'm going to tie both things into this. Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to tie both in.
Well,
Do I feel like
you look at real quick? You look at us with Gamecock fans, and we make that same thing where we hear Clemson fans crying about not having Sammy Brown in the game last year in the fourth quarter against South Carolina, right? Wes wouldn't put him in. Last time I checked, Dabo was the head coach. You have the full saying, hey, who's in and who's out. That needs to be said here.
I was amazed at that comment. That comment was amazing. I could not believe it was said, to be honest with you. If I'm being very transparent and I'm being like very open and honest about the situation, I honestly still can't believe that comment was said. While the offensive line didn't have their best game, I went back and watched the game. Do I feel like Lonnie Teasley deserved to lose his job? Not at this point. If this was a decision you need to make beforehand, like before the season, during the first bye week, I mean, is what it is. But I feel like the blame is getting put in the same spot every single time, FG. And I've been pretty vocal about that, about how I've had an issue with the blame being where it's been the entire time. Why is LaNorris not carrying some of this blame? Now, everybody saw this stat that Cole put out there, which it pisses me off because you want to say LaNorris ran 898 yards, which I don't even know how they calculated that situation. So, like, I want to know how that was actually calculated for LaNorris to quote unquote run 898 yards just to gain 19 yards. That doesn't make any sense. We didn't. If you really break down all the possessions we had, there's no way he was able to run that much. You know that as well as I do, FG. And how was he able to run that much? To be honest with you, and he had 2 intentional groundings.
It's an interesting system that they use. It's just from Teamworks, which is their operating system for sports. They're out there in Durham, North Carolina. They're out there and they're supposed to get all these different stats, things of that nature, like what Cole put out there. I don't know enough about them to be able to really talk about them onto that extent, but it definitely seems. I mean, that number really does seem high. When you think of
like
off of that 894 yards total distance traveled in that game,
that's crazy.
That's a lot.
I would have to now I have to rewatch the game again to see where he would have been able to put up that kind of yards to do that. But I'm not going to let people keep sitting here and say that, especially people whose their narrative behind the situation is they feel like LaNorris is above some of these criticisms. And I'm getting old with that because at the end of the day, you saw as well as I did, there were misreads on a lot of different plays that would have gone for first downs.
Sure.
There were 3 different drag routes that were wide open, that were blocked properly, that would have gone for first downs.
Yeah.
Now, am I saying that he was terrible? Like that was all on Lenore's? No, I'm not saying it was all on Lenore's. I've never said it was all on him. But I have a very, 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 very strong feeling about how everyone wants to blame everyone but him, especially how bad things have gone and how bad things have played out. Because you know as well as I do, you remember Vendrigas was wide open over the
Sure.
seam, and that was if you hit Vendrigas, he goes for a touchdown. That was what was that, the Missouri game or was that the Vandy game? It was one of those two games that he was wide open over the middle and he misses that pass and he was blocked perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I have a lot of issues with blaming everyone else when it's a team situation at this point, and it's a team. It's not even that; it's just a team situation. But my God, it's an offensive team situation that we're having a struggle with right now. The defense is doing their part for the most part. It's an offensive situation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Another thing I gotta say to this as well is, guys, you got to be real about what life is like now. These are paid athletes, and not just regularly paid athletes. These are handsomely paid athletes that are getting this kind of money. This is life changing money that they're getting. This is more. They're like one of the top percentage people in the state when it comes. If you broke down salaries, they would be very high up there,
sure.
like close to the 1 percentile in the state of South Carolina when it comes to funds. And so I find it ironic that I've seen people literally crucify Dylan Stewart, but turn around and have nothing to say about Lenoris. I've seen people have so much to say about this person and that person, Nick not catching the ball, Mazio not playing, all this other stuff. But when it comes down to the QB, it's like, well, he doesn't have an offensive line. Well, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have that. So, Lonnie, I was a big fan of yours. I still am. I cannot wait to see what you have in the future. But Gamecock Nation, I'm going to say this right now. If things don't change, especially if I don't see improvement, someone's going to have to come on here and explain to me why we let Lonnie go then. I'm not going to let people get away with the scapegoat situation. I'm personally not going to let it happen. I'm not letting that ride. Um I'm going to ride behind Shane in his decision. I have no problem doing that. But if things don't change, I got questions. I got a
I
lot of
think
questions.
I think at the end of the day, McHugh, I know I agree. I don't think that firing Lonnie after this game for one was the right time of doing it. You know what I mean? I mean, South Carolina has had plenty of struggles on that offensive line. I think we can all agree on that, and I do think that once again the injuries do take part of that issue. I'm not trying to use that as I'm not trying to use it as an excuse because I mean it is true. We don't have somebody's had a pretty solid season, pretty decent season with Case and Henry. Nolan Hayes seemed to potentially be that guy. At center. And so you've seen the issues. I mean, Rodney, with Newsome, he just hasn't been what he needs to be. I mean, unfortunately, he just hasn't been what he needs to be. And then, of course, I just it's unfortunate, man. We're in a tough spot right now with a bunch of games left, and it's if you look on it on paper, it's a gauntlet of a schedule. It really is. It's a gauntlet of a schedule, you know. But when you don't have guys that are properly hitting their assignments right, and it's just I see why fans are excited about why you let go of Lonnie. Obviously, glaring factor of the false starts. multiple times, right? Offensive linemen not going up the field to block. I mean, I got former Gamecocks played that offensive line, part of the 11, that 2011, 2012 season that are bringing this up. Why isn't, Newsome not going up the field to block? Why is so doing this? Why is so doing that? Well, how did Josiah regress so bad? Which I'm not saying Josiah has regressed a ton. I mean, he has regressed for sure, but he still struggled as a freshman. You know what I mean? And that's going to happen. You're going to have your freshman struggles. You're new to the game. I get it, to go into for high school to college. It's just an interesting time to fire Lonnie. I do agree with that. I think that's a fair point. Looking at it on the other side of things, as far as the offensive line goes, I mean, in this particular game, it wasn't pretty. This is a stat from True Media, aka PFF, for pressure rate, and this is the highest pressure rate without blitzing by FBS defenses in Week 7, and LSU was at 72%. They led everybody. Communication hasn't been there this year. I think we all can agree on that.
I mean, if we're going to be honest, there's that communication has not been there. There's been a couple questionable calls from the top, bro. Like that. Why is it that just certain people are immune to being blamed? That's just where I'm at with it. Like, I just feel like if you're going to blame everybody, put everybody on notice.
No, and I think fans are starting to realize that Lenoir's is not, immortal to this, honestly, and they're starting to see that sophomore slump. I mean, it's the reality right now. He's not going through all his progressions. He's missing targets. I mean, there were multiple times that he had that guy right up the middle, and maybe it's PTSD. I don't know, but he's not being himself. And honestly, Q, I think that goes back to that bowl game. I hate to say it, but if you look back at that one, Q, you were there, I were there. We both were there. We saw this. Lenoir's was not being Lenoir's in this game, despite losing Rocket Sanders, right?
Bro, you gotta have them conversations, bro.
I agree 100%.
And I think you got to do it.
Right, and I do see where people think, yourself and some other people out there, and I do have to agree to a certain extent that Lonnie was a fall guy. Granted, that offensive line is not blocked the way it needs to, and it's had missed assignments, and he's done a lot of bad things, right? But I think injuries and all these things, they come into play there. I really do. But it comes back to Shula, right?
So here's a Shula thing too. I'd like to address that too, FG.
Sure.
Is Shula innocent in this situation? Absolutely not. You get paid millions. You get paid millions of dollars to call plays. I got to call you out on that too. But has Shula gotten people open and they've been completely missed? That's where I'm at, FG.
Sure.
No, if we're calling a spade, that's where I'm at, because there were 3 plays in particular I saw on third down where folks were running wide open. Sellers had plenty of time to throw the ball, and he didn't. One of them, which ended up in an intentional grounding, which, if I'm being honest, if Sellers would have threw the ball towards the end zone, Fuller was running wide open for a touchdown that would have tied the game. Wide open. And there was time. That's why I'm so angry about this 890 whatever stat. That was so, it was so broad. It was a statement. It was nothing to back it. You see what I'm saying? None of that to back it.
Sure.
And yet here we are dealing with the situation because people want to run with whatever narrative they have.
I mean, like I said, I would like to see that ultimate stat of how that came about. I mean, as far as with Shula, the thing that gets me, and unfortunately, I had nightmares of when Bobo did it. 3rd and 8, we're lining up. We're going to QB draw. We're doing a halfback draw. It was in the fourth quarter with 6 minutes left, and it was 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. And we do a halfback draw right up the middle. It's going to be 4th down territory, sure. But South Carolina had success with screens. And, throughout the game, they had a good screen with Rasul Faison and some other stuff going on. Another game I like to bring up, Ole Miss versus LSU. Not saying that, Chambliss and Lenore are the same type of quarterback, but they have a lot of similarities.
They do.
Ole Miss was able to throw 333 yards on LSU by rolling that guy out of the pocket many times. And granted, I understand, Q, I saw where the defense was for LSU, but there are ways to combat. There are ways you have blockers on this team, Q. And this is where I say that blame goes right back into Shula, because I don't think that we utilized from what – I mean, if Ole Miss can do it, why can't we? And don't give me the whole, Ole Miss has the personnel to do it. No, they don't. No, they don't. That team barely beat, who was it, Washington State over the weekend at home?
That's all I'm saying.
I mean, come on, man.
That's all I'm saying. A lot of it, like I said, every game is winnable if that offense can get going. That's all it boils down to. It boils down to absolutely nothing else. If the offense is able to move the ball, every single game is winnable. Every last one of them. Your toughest game you have left to play is at home. Your top 2 toughest game you have left to play is at home.
Sure.
It's like, what more do you want me to say to it?
No, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, Vanderbilt, held in with against Alabama, and last week, and then of course this week, Missouri. I think if they didn't get some help from the old I can't even remember his name, but the crew from last year against LSU for that in favor of Alabama, I'm not sure how that game would have gone really. And then you look at Texas and Oklahoma this past weekend. Did Oklahoma, did they rush John Mateer up too early? I think they did, because he looked terrible.
He's not ready to play yet, bro. He's not ready to play, and I think
and that's going to hurt him.
I think that's going to be intriguing this week. Like, I'm intrigued this week to see what that looks like. I'm intrigued to see how that plays out. I am genuinely intrigued to see what that looks like. Like, how are we able to handle that situation? Do we tee off? Do we get there? What happens?
If we're able to get home against Oklahoma, they are in for another bad game against South Carolina, which last year, don't forget, 9 sacks against the Sooners. And who's to say that doesn't – I want to say 9 sacks. It's not going to happen again. But half of that, 4.5, 5, not out of the realm of possibility against Oklahoma, just saying. Not out of the realm of possibility. And that defense, look, that defense has been very good. They made Arch Manning look serviceable.
Arch wasn't even doing that, man.
Not at all. Not at all. So, I mean, Q, as far as recruiting goes, off of this announcement, Zion and of course Darius Gray. I mean, those two seemingly are locked in at this point. Darius Gray, 5-star guy. He out of Virginia. These two seem to be locked in, so that's good. Off of the news of Lonnie no longer, calling the plays of South Carolina on the offensive line, no longer being the head guy over there. And I will say this to Sean Elliott, going back to helping out that offensive line position.
I think it's good. Don't get me wrong. And let me be honest with you. I was there when Sean Elliott was an O-line coach. I know what he's capable of doing. That is not what we're saying here. But what I am saying is, if that was the case, things should have changed a lot sooner. And FG knows what I'm talking about. You make that kind of, in this era, in this play, and this what we're doing now, you make that change sooner. But I will say this. One thing that I know Sean Elliott is not a fan of, he's not a fan of the something that we've had a big issue with, the crap. What is that when they do stunts? Not us, not when we do stunts. What is the blocking scheme? Not pin and pull on pass protection. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Shifts. The shifts.
Shifting.
He's not a big fan of shifting.
Right.
He's more like whoever's in front of you, block them. He's not a big fan of that shifting stuff when you're doing pass pro. He wants whoever's in front of you, you block them right there.
Yeah.
And if you don't have anybody, find somebody. And so I am interested to see how that looks.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's Needed to get that out there because people would run with that narrative. All the Welcome Home podcast thinks that Sean Elliott's going to be a terrible
Yeah.
offensive liner and a
No, it
coach. Good
has nothing
God,
to do with
no.
him.
Good God, no.
I've known him longer than I've known y'all. I've known
Yeah,
Sean for a very long time. Nah, bro, you're not getting away with that.
yeah, yeah. So it's gonna be interesting to see it. Sean did a hell of a job with a lot of my guys, man, that played at Carolina. Guys that I talked to. It's just guys that are friends now. It's crazy, man. So we'll talk more about that as we preview Oklahoma on Thursday. We'll get a good preview back in, so we'll be back on that. So that's
We're back on target, bro.
we
We're
are.
back on track, and
Yeah, we're back on
I
track.
mean, yeah. So I'm intrigued to see how it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's go ahead. We'll get a commercial break in real quick because we got some basketball to talk about. Some interesting stuff
Sounds
over
good.
there.
Sounds good.
All right, coming back in 3, 2, and 1. All right, so basketball is set to tip off here real soon, and the preseason, your polls and everything, they're starting to pop out. South Carolina on the men's side of things, well, they were predicted to finish last in the SEC. And to quote Lamont Paris, if they like us, they like us. Good. If they don't, then they're going to pay the price. I mean, it's quite simple. And South Carolina has an interesting roster this year. Q, we're going to have Jamie Shaw on the show to talk more Gamecock basketball soon with us, as he's been in many practices to watch these guys play. And I got to tell you, Q, Jamie told us a lot of things last year, and I didn't want to quite believe in it. And he was very much accurate on it last year about how South Carolina could potentially be on the team last year. But this year, a lot more positivity coming down the pipeline from things that we're hearing. So it's going to be good to hear from him on that. And South Carolina's going to have a really cool event. I think I believe it's on the 21st, if I'm not mistaken. Waka Flocka comes back to Columbia, South Carolina. Honorary Gamecock fan, by the way. An honorary Gamecock fan, Waka Flocka Flame, in the house, as there is a Gamecock basketball event for women's and men's basketball. Apparently, there's going to be a dunk contest and 3-point contest, all kinds of crazy things going on. Starts at 7 o'clock, doors open at 6 o'clock. So that's going to be a fun one there, Q. What are your thoughts, Q, about the Gamecocks starting out in last place to finish last place for the
Anyone that knows me knows. Anyone that knows me knows how I feel about Lamont Paris. It's my best friend. It's my boy.
hardest working man in America? You better know
It
it.
really is, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
One thing about Lamont is if you fit Lamont's system, Lamont can make things happen. He makes a lot of things happen when you fit into Lamont's system. Everything is about how you fit into Lamont Paris's system. I've seen the system work. I've seen it work when people feel like it fails. I've seen it work when people feels like it doesn't work. I've literally seen Lamont do something with nothing. If you watch the games last year, Lamont Paris was literally destroying. I'm not going to say beat. Beat is lame. Beat is not accurate. Destroying the team that won the national championship for 39 minutes and 50 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to repeat that again because I really need Gamecock Nation to understand how Lamont Paris's system really works. 39 minutes and 50 seconds, Lamont Paris was beating the team that won the national championship
Yep.
in basketball with the team he had last year.
You had one healthy guard, you would have won that game. No doubt. No question. It would have been close, honestly.
Yeah. I was at the Mississippi State game. Lamont had Mississippi State beat the entire time. The issue was he didn't have the players in place to win the game. It is one thing to beat somebody. It genuinely is, FG. It genuinely is. We've talked about this before. It's one thing to beat people, but it's hard to beat people when you don't have the players to do it. So, you know what Lamont did? He was given some money, which he didn't have last year. I don't know what narrative people keeps not understanding about that, but the
Good
amount of
Lord, he
money
did
Lamont
not.
Paris had last year to field a team
It's laughable.
was equivalent to some people's like
Got
third or fourth highest paid player on their team.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's many football players in the NCAA can paid way more than what Lamont was able to work with last year.
there was players in basketball teams that were getting paid more than
Oh yeah,
Lamont had.
there was bench warmers, by the way.
That's why I'm trying to get you guys to understand Lamont was behind with that, and it's not on him. So he had money and he did what he was supposed to do with the money. When you bring everyone wants the sexy names, the guys that do this, do that, and the other. At the end of the day, basketball is still a team sport, and that's how Lamont plays the game. Is basketball being a team sport? You're not going
Mm-hmm.
to win any championship with one person. It's going to take a team full of people to win a championship. It's going to take a team full of people to win in the SEC, especially how physical it is. And the SEC is not nearly as physical as it was last year. Last year, I've never seen the SEC as strong as it was. That was
That was an absolute
hell on earth
gauntlet.
last year.
That
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 was
was
hell on earth last year.
I
Hell
can't
on earth.
I can't no Q. There's been nothing close to what the SEC's had in the past or what they had this past year.
Yeah. And so
It's
this year,
ridiculous.
Lamont is 110% prepared for basketball this year. The amount of volume shooting he has on this team this year, the amount of players that are able to bring the ball up the court, the amount of people actually know how to break a press, that's going to be refreshing to see fundamental things as
Mm-hmm.
beating a press because I've seen Lamont try to coach them through it from the sideline, but if you're not going to execute what he's coaching, what is he supposed to do? And so
Mm-hmm.
when you take out that kind of mentality out of his locker room and now you bring in team cohesiveness into the locker room, I mean that last place thing is laughable. If
Oh yeah.
you haven't genuinely seen the cohesiveness, but not just the cohesiveness of what Lamont brings to the table with this team, but if you haven't genuinely seen the upgrades that he's done across the board, including the freshman class he's brought in, which a couple of those guys are going to get some good minutes, and you're going to see why they're going to get some good minutes in it.
Sure.
You're now looking at a team that looks different, and you that's going to be different, and you're going to see why last place was laughable in the beginning of it in the whole situation. The team is definitely more talented than last year. There's a couple teams in the SEC that I know for a fact are not more talented than them, but it's prove it, and that's where we're at with it. It's prove it, and so that's what we're gonna do.
That's right.
So
That's
that's
right.
how I feel about that. Last place is a joke. It's laughable. Let's see what happens.
That's it. Yeah, the SEC is not going to be as deep as it was this past year, and that poll, all that preseason hype, it's going to reflect here, soon. South Carolina exhibition game against North Carolina State up there. I think Greensboro, if I'm not mistaken, up there, right, and up there. So
Yep.
on October 26th. So we'll have a feeling what it's going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
You got some newcomers that are great, man. You got Mongolian Mike, Norn Capish from one of the San Diego schools up there. Um, I just you got some great additions, man. Elijah Strong, I think, is going to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk more about that here real soon. It's not far off at all. And Q, taking us on the women's side of things, we got South Carolina. You set to go to the media days and had Chloe Kitts on set to go last week. And it was around this time last week, maybe a little bit earlier, that Chloe Kitts was out there supporting Kyler Murray Boyles up there. And she was sporting a brace, which is really known, that kind of brace seen as with ACL injuries. And unfortunately, it was revealed this morning on her personal Instagram page that Chloe Kitts will miss the 25-26 season because of a torn ACL. That's tough. That's there's no way to minimize it, Q. That's a big blow for South Carolina. I'm not saying that all bets are off on this team because they're not. This team is very talented and they're going to have some growing pains and there's going to be some really good spots for these women.
Yeah.
But losing Chloe Kitts, that's tough because not only is she a great player, a great guard, but she's also a leader.
Yeah. And
Tough.
it's going to be tough without her out there as a leader. But the beauty of the situation is she's still on the team, around the team, and is going to be able to be a leader for the team.
Facts.
This is a time where you're going to see a lot more Joyce Edwards. And it's going to be kind of dope to see it because Joyce has come a long way with her game. You have a bona fide scorer this year. Ravens come back. Tessa Johnson is back. You've got a lot of players back, and a lot of people get a chance to step up this year. And the beauty of this is Don's going to that 9-10 woman rotation now.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a difference because
It's
everyone
true.
knows when Don gets to that 9-10 rotation, things start changing.
That's true.
So I'm intrigued to see what that looks like. I think I think we're bound to repeat as SEC champs again. I can see a repeat of SEC champs again. I think we're very loaded as a team. I'm really fearing that UConn team. That UConn team is pretty talented. When you have Fudd and Strong on that team,
Mm.
that's a problem. But I am intrigued to see what that's going to look like for us, how we're going to play it. The transfer from Mississippi State is going to help us a ton
Yes.
because she's been through the SEC gauntlet and was averaging a double double. So I think that's going to
Mm-hmm.
play a huge role for us this year. I think that's going to be good. Um, Tack has come a long way as well. But watch those freshmen, especially Maker.
Yeah.
That girl can play.
Yeah. Yes, you can.
So I'm intrigued to see how you're going to defend Don this year because I think Don got a new jolt of energy because of how things went last year. I think Don got a little jolt of energy. And the beauty of this situation is this. Everyone kept worrying about recruiting and all those other things, right? Chloe Kitts comes back next year, and so does Watkins.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people are quick to see the South Carolina missing on players, and it's like, oh, the sky is falling. But in reality, I mean, Watkins is already going to return, right, for next year. But now you got Chloe Kitts returning as well. So it's like you're okay. You
You're gonna
know,
be all right.
you're all right. You're doing all right. You're gonna be okay. So
I'm looking
obviously,
forward to the season with them. I think another
yeah,
Final Four run will happen. I just think I'm just intrigued to see how it plays out. That's how I
yeah,
am right now.
yeah. Oh, I think if South Carolina, they're predicted to win the SEC on the women's side of things, and I think if they do, what is that? Their fifth, sixth win in the SEC in a row, the fifth or sixth
Hmm.
consecutive win in a row. I mean, that's crazy. That's just it's insane.
It's unheard of.
Hmm.
It's unheard of, brother. That's
I
what you
think they
call unheard
can.
of. Yeah,
Yeah,
in
and I think they
most of.
can.
I don't doubt it one bit. I don't
Yeah,
doubt it one bit.
yeah, I
That's what
think
I don't doubt that one bit.
So yeah, well, like I said, Chloe Kitts won't be there, but Tessa Johnson is going to go in her place, and then you got Tanaya Latson, of course, the FSU transfer, the number one scorer in the country, by the way, last year. Yep, she's a Gamecock. People may have forgot about that, and then Joyce Edwards is also going to be going to the
Hmm.
SEC basketball tip off for 2026. So yeah, it's going to be a fun season, AQ, as we get closer to that. Which and we're not far away from that at all. I think November 2nd, November 3rd, they tip off against Grand Canyon. I think it is. So
Mm,
not far off, man, not far off.
not far off at all.
No,
I'm with it.
that's it. That's it. Absolutely. Well, guys, like I said, tune in. Thursday as we break down Oklahoma. That's going to be a fun one. Bringing Oklahoma to South Carolina for I think it's the first time in history that the Sooners have
Yes.
traveled to Columbia.
Hmm.
And unfortunate for a injured John Mateer that should not have been playing against Texas. I think we can all agree on that. So I know the crowd's going to bring the noise. It's a 12:45 kick, if I'm not mistaken, and then Alabama was officially announced for 3:30, which back in 2010, that 3:30 kickoff. We won't look at talk about 2019 because a certain wide receiver that was on that team for Alabama is did some bad things. So we won't get into that. We don't think about 2019 for obvious reasons, obviously being a Will Muschamp team. So we don't count that. So the last time that we played was 2010. No, I'm just kidding. But hey, 3:30
3:30, man. That
kickoff.
if I'm the boys, I'm pissed because that was supposed to be a night game.
Oh, here's what's
So
beautiful about that too, Q. The 2010 team from that year, they're all supposed to be in town to celebrate what happened back in 2010. Supposed to be some kind of reunion from what I've been gathering from that team that beat Alabama.
Nope, I'm not doing it. Nope, I'm not getting hyped. Nope, not doing it. Nope, I'm not doing it. Nope. I gotta see this game first. Not doing it.
We may or may not have a guest on before that game to kind of reminisce about beating that 2010 team. I'm just saying.
We can deal with whoever we can, bro.
I'm just saying. So, well, guys, like I said, tune in Thursday as we break down that Oklahoma game. Q, do you have anything else before you wrap up the show, my guy?
That's it, my brother. That's it.
That's it. And hey, real quick, shout out to Rico Dowdle. Shout out to Rico Dowdle.
Boy went crazy.
Do we know why we're shouting out to Rico Dowdle? Obviously, he beat the Cowgirls, and hey, Q loves that because Q is a huge Eagles fan. And as a Panthers fan, I got to shout out to my guy Rico Dowdle.
He went crazy. I ain't gonna say that. Lie to you. He went crazy.
He did.
So I'm a fan.
473 yards of scrimmage from the last 2 weeks.
I'm a fan.
What else can you say about that? And here's the crazy thing. Rico Dowdle is the 7th player with 2 straight games of 225-plus yards of scrimmage yards since 1970.
That's it. Let's see how his season continues. Thank God he's on my fantasy team.
You want to know who's on that list with him, Q?
Who?
Legends. Walter Payton, Marshall Faulk, guys like Deuce McAllister, Le'Veon Bell, and Dalvin Cook, and Josh Gordon.
And shout out to my boy AP. He finna go 0-6, bro. No, he's sick. Shout out to AP, man. 0-6, bro.
That's tough. That's tough. Unfortunately, the producer got the best of me this week as I don't know what happened to my team. I was 5-0. I'm gonna fall 5-1 in the league. That's unfortunate.
London at halftime, 9 receptions, 147, and a tutty. Rico Dowdle, 183 yards, reception tutty. Yeah, man. Broncos defense, yeah, bro, it's over. It's Joe over, my boy.
It's Joe over for AP.
It's Joe.
So congratulations to Sin for finally beating me. It doesn't happen often right now in that league. So
yeah,
disappointment abounds.
It's about to come back, bro. I just need a couple more folks to take some L's.
I need guys to stop going to IR personally. I mean, that's my thing.
Yeah, I need Brent because is Brandon losing? Nah, freaking Will's finna freaking let Brandon win. Did Palmer lose? Yeah, so Palmer's gonna head down the chute.
Yeah, he's going 2-4. He's gonna fall 2-4. Gamecock Dave. Dave.
He's leading the pack, bro. The Gamecock Dave spirit is still around, bro.
That's it. Always around.
So yeah.
Always around. And so thankfully though, I still lead the pack. But it's not that great. Actually, no, I think Dakota's actually gonna be up there with me, so that's unfortunate. But anyway.
For sure. Dakota be cooking.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. But we gotta bounce back. We'll bounce back next week. We'll get it done, we'll get it handled. And that's that. But guys, appreciate y'all tuning in to Welcome Up Podcast on YouTube, Facebook, X, all those fun places there. We appreciate y'all listening to the Welcome Up Podcast on Apple and Spotify. You can catch every episode, every repeat, every fun episode over there. Apple, Spotify, the Welcome Up Podcast, Fifth Voice of South Carolina on the Belief Network. Guys, we'll see you next time.
Peace.